Thanks for joining this regular meeting of the Frankfort City Board of Commissioners. Today is November 22nd. And I'll ask our city clerk to please call the roll.
Commissioner Waldridge.
Present.
Commissioner Thompson.
Present.
Commissioner May.
Present.
Commissioner Unger.
Present.
Mayor Wilkerson.
Present. We do have a quorum. And first item is citizens' comments. I think we have at least one. City clerk, if you wouldn't mind reading that.
I actually have two. If you wanted me to read the one from Nicole Conkle that I shared with all of you earlier, I think she wanted me to read that.
Please.
Then I also have one from Kayla at DFI. Okay, this is from Nicole Conkle, and she is with the Frankfort Architectural Review Board. She says, "Dear board members and city staff, we are pleased to see both the African American Civil Rights Grant and the local African American Historic Context Report project moving forward. Both projects will present a more inclusive history of our community and its residents, and we believe both projects can be used to increase tourism and promote economic development in the future. We appreciate this board's consideration of these projects and extend thanks to all the city staff who put time and effort into these projects." And again, that was Nicole Conkle, and she is on the Frankfort Architectural Review Board. And the second comment I have is from Kayla Smith with Downtown Frankfort. And she says, "Downtown Frankfort, Inc. is starting our planning for 2022. We will be having our annual planning strategy meeting on December 14th. Before we have our meeting, we would love to have all your input and suggestions, what you want to see DFI do, your vision for us, ways we can improve, etc. We value everyone's opinions and suggestions. With your input, DFI can better plan our 2022 program of work and help us gauge funding to help us determine our budget for 2022 based on our program of work and expectations. DFI wants to be better community partners. We hope this will help create a better and clear communication from to the city for the future. So if everyone can contact Kayla Smith with their thoughts prior to December 14th, we would really appreciate it. Thank you for everyone's time." And that's it.
Well, thank you, and thank you to Nicole and Kayla and your service, and thank you for your service to our community and your organizations. We appreciate it. Next is the consent calendar. I will turn it over to our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. And actually, before we get to the consent calendar, I just want to send out a big congratulations to Jennifer Hall, our transit superintendent, who was awarded the 2021 Outstanding Transit Leader Award from KYTC, which is great. So we already knew we had fantastic staff. Chief Briscoe, our outstanding fire chief. We've gotten lots of recognitions and awards, and just want to take an opportunity to celebrate that and to thank Jennifer for her hard work. All right, to the consent calendar. We have a number of items on this list, especially many from our sewer department, so bear with me as I read through them. First item is the adoption of the approval of the minutes from the work session on October 11th, 2021, our special meeting on October 18th, 2021, and our regular meeting on October 25th, 2021. Second item is invoice for Mission Communications from the sewer department. Mission Communications allows the sewer department to monitor our pump stations 24/7. It notifies staff if there's an emergency. We've used them for a number of years. This is a budgeted line item for $30,800. Third item on the consent calendar is a contract extension with Laura's Cleaning Service for the sewer department in the amount of $21,600, and this is a budgeted line item. Item number 4 is a professional services agreement with Hazen for the Willow Street Pump Station force main relocation. Staff recommends approval of this contract with Hazen. This is in the capital improvement budget and will be budgeted for construction in fiscal year 2022 and 2023 in the amount of $294,329. If you have any questions for Kenny, I do know in speaking with him, this is extremely important. It'll alleviate several sanitary sewer overflows for the East Frankfort Interceptor project. Next up is also with the sewer department, item number 5. We request approval for a professional services agreement with Bell Engineering for the design and bidding of our blowers, replacement blowers at our wastewater treatment plant. Our original blowers are from 1980. They've been rebuilt several times, and it's an opportunity now that we feel that we should completely replace them. This is budgeted in our fiscal year 21-22 budget for $1 million. Item number 6, contract amendment number 1 for the prevention park pump station. Again, for the sewer department, staff requests the commission approval of an amendment to our professional services agreement with GRW Engineers for engineering design services in the amount of $82,878 for the prevention park pump station. Funds are budgeted in fiscal year 21-22 and also will be budgeted in fiscal year 22-23 for this project. This is part of our efforts to consolidate a number of small pump stations into larger ones, especially when the smaller ones outlive their useful lives. Next up, item number 7, amendment number 1 with Burgess and Nyepel for the Capitol Avenue River Interceptor. This is also for the sewer department as well. And staff requests approval in the amount of $174,761. This is in our capital improvement budget. This is going to do a number of improvements, but I do want to point out that one particular improvement is that, as you all know, we've discussed with you about Dolly Graham Park and the need to build new restrooms by next spring. Our sewer director, Kenny Hogston, has moved up this work so we can get this construction done now before we build new bathrooms next spring. So this is a key part in making sure that that happens. Item number 8, we have a MOU with the Secret Service. What this is, staff requests approval to enter into this MOU with the Secret Service to have a Frankfort Police Department officer serve as a task force officer on the Kentucky Cyber Crimes Task Force. The MOU will allow the Frankfort Police Department to work with them on this task force. Sometimes we also get access to additional equipment and, of course, intelligence. So a very important task force to be a part of. Item number 9 is the 2021 clothing contract for the police department. We are requesting approval to award the clothing and equipment contract to Gulls. This was budgeted in the 21-22 budget. Item number 10 is the comprehensive plan consultant contract. As you guys will remember, in August, you all approved the city's financial participation and the update to the comprehensive plan. Since that time, the fiscal court has asked for and approved an expanded scope and budget that includes not only the comprehensive plan, but also a rewrite of the city and county's development codes. As you may recall, the portion of our budget for the comprehensive plan review was approximately $136,000. The total comprehensive plan update and rewrite will be $239,000. And we will require a budget amendment of approximately $102,500 since the cost of the comprehensive plan update was unknown earlier this year when the budgets were approved. Item number 11 is our 9/11 service agreement renewal. Staff request a 1-year service agreement renewal with RCS Communication. This will utilize funds from our E911 account in the amount of $25,777. This allows us to purchase and upgrade 5 workstations for our E911 dispatch. Item number 12, what one of our citizen comments was referring to from Nicole Conkle. Staff request authorization to apply for the 2021 African American Civil Rights Grant Funds in the amount of $50,000. As you may recall, Rebecca Hall presented on this at our work session on November 8th. This will allow us to expand our current efforts to conduct 10 more oral history interviews, putting in a multimedia exhibit to showcase videos at the Capital City Museum, and hopefully, if funds allow, a historical marker on Capitol Avenue. This is documenting the march, part of the key march on 1964 when Martin Luther King was here in Frankfort. Item number 13 are the local African American Historical Context Report Project. Staff requests authorization to award a contract to Carolyn Brackett of Cultural Heritage Works of Nashville, Tennessee, as a consultant to help staff in completing the City of Frankfort's African American Historical Context Report. As you may recall, we were awarded a grant of $15,000, and the city did a cash match of $10,000 to complete this report and our work documenting African American history and contributions here in Frankfort. 3 possible consultants were interviewed, and our group of staff who interviewed Carolyn were unanimous in selecting her. Finally, item number 14 is our personnel actions, and requesting the approval of the appointment of Lisa Goodrich to the Public Works Transit Department, hiring her as a transit driver on November 9th, 2021. The appointment of Susan Culbertson in Public Works and Transit on November 23rd, 2021 as a transit driver, and the appointment of June Gorney in Parks and Rec on December 7th, 2021 as an administrative aide.
Thank you, City Manager. Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Hogston, are you available?
I know Kenny joined. Do you have a question, Commissioner Thompson?
I do. Madam City Manager, I apologize for. I know we talked earlier today, and I should have asked this. I just am trying to get a little bit of clarification on item number 5 with regard to PSA with Bell Engineering regarding the blower package design. I do know that the project had been budgeted for $1 million. When looking at the agreement with Bell, the one that we are working on right now, the one that hasn't been signed yet by us, discussed a price of around $88,000, I think. And then when I look at, I'm sorry.
I don't know where that came from.
I'm sorry. Okay. I will tell you. It is on page 3 of the agreement between the City of Frankfort and Bell Engineering for professional services.
No, I meant the sound, by the way, not the.
Sorry. On page 3 of that document, under section 5, under compensation, it discusses the sum of $88,500 as the maximum that is being paid on that section. And then I know there are 2 other contracts, GRW and another contract that were signed in 2020. Are we paying the totals of the other 2 that were signed in 2020 under the 21-22 budget allotment. Is that where all that's coming from?
Can I step in and say, should we move this to or into a discussion or action item and take it off consent before we discuss it here? Should we approve it
And I don't-
also with consent?
Yeah, I apologize. I'm not trying to hold this up at all. I just was trying to make sure that everyone knew where those numbers were coming from, because there were a lot of documents on that one particular one, and I was trying to add it all up. So I apologize if that's causing an issue. I'm not trying to.
No, I'm asking the city attorney, should we move this to action item?
I think if the question can be answered fairly quickly by our sewer director, then we can go ahead and move it to action item.
Okay. Well, sewer director, Mr. Hodgson.
Yes, what that contract is for, basically it's for the blowers. I know it's a little convoluted, but we did a study in 16-17 that identified multiple upgrades for the wastewater treatment plants. And this is the third contract that we've signed with Bill to complete those upgrades. What we've done on this one, did this one a little bit differently. You've already approved for the blowers to be ordered because they were on such back order. We went ahead and bid out the blowers first so that we knew it was easy to kind of get a number of what we needed for that. So we've already got those ordered. The next contract that comes in will be for the installation, the construction and everything and installation for that.
So that magic $1 million number that we had allotted will take care of the cost of buying them, installing them, and this design
And the
contract,
engineering.
correct?
Yes.
And the engineering. So
Yes.
because all that combined looked like it was, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, $440,000 for the engineering portion of that, and then I assumed that the cost of the actual items were the additional amounts, which is why we
No,
allowed those.
the engineering for
$1
just
million.
this one project is 88,000. The rest of all of it added up is for all three different projects that Bill Engineering is working on at the wastewater plant right now.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Madam City Manager and Mayor. That answered my question. Thank you.
Perfect. We have a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Motion to approve.
I will second that, Mayor.
Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, I ask the clerk to please call the roll. Call for a vote.
Commissioner Waldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes.
Commissioner May,
Yes.
Commissioner Unger,
Yes.
Mayor Wilkerson.
Yes. And the consent calendar is adopted. And now we move to action items. And the first is a second reading. I'll ask the city attorney.
An ordinance amending ordinance number 13, 2021 series, appropriating the revenue to be received by the city of Frankfort for the fiscal year 2021-2022. This ordinance amends ordinance number 13, 2021 series, appropriating the revenue to be received by the city for the fiscal year 2021-2022 by adding the following expenditures and transfers. 1, general fund, $863,215 aggregate total. 2, transfers from general fund, $176,131 aggregate total. Capital improvements, $19,131 aggregate total. Tiger fund, $157,000 aggregate total. And by adding the following revenue. General fund, $794,656 aggregate total.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion on this action item? Seeing none, hearing none, I'll ask the clerk to please call her vote.
Commissioner Waldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes.
Commissioner May,
Yes.
Commissioner Unger,
Yes.
Mayor Wilkerson.
Yes, and that motion carries. Action item number 2. City Attorney, would you?
I'll jump in for item number 2. We are surplusing a conveyor that actually no longer works for the solid waste department. So we ask for approval so we can sell it on an online auction.
Move to approve.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Commissioner Waters, I think, on that one. And any discussion on this action item? Seeing none, hearing none, ask the clerk to call for a vote.
Commissioner Waldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes.
Commissioner May,
Yes.
Commissioner Unger,
Yes.
Mayor Wilkerson.
Yes, and that motion carries. Moving on to action item number 3, emergency management Rockwood trailer surplus order to KSU.
Yes.
This, City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Emergency Management is requesting permission to surplus or donate, give our mobile command post to Kentucky State University. We have a new one. We no longer use this one. They've borrowed it on a number of occasions, and it's nice that we can be able to give it to them, and they'll put it to continued good use.
Move to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this? City Attorney.
I see Commissioner Thompson has his hand up. Just really fast, Commissioner Waldridge, I'm sorry, we couldn't see you for that second. If you could just repeat yourself on the second so that we make sure that we can see and hear you now.
I'm sorry. Yes, that was a second by me
Thank you,
in
City
regards
Attorney.
to donation. Thank you.
We have a second by Commissioner Waters and discussion. Commissioner Thompson.
Yes. City Solicitor Ross, may I ask under KRS 82-083 subsection 4 subsection A, does that allow us to transfer personal property without compensation to Kentucky State University? Because that A section is a governmental agency. Do they qualify as a governmental agency?
They do, and that's a very good question, Commissioner. We actually researched that a couple of years ago thoroughly to make sure that they did constitute a governmental entity, and we have some background information on that confirms that.
Great. Just wanted to make sure that comes in handy in the future, and I appreciate the knowledge on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. It's good to know. Any other discussion? Right, seeing none, hearing none, I'll ask the clerk to call for a vote.
Commissioner Waldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes.
Commissioner May,
Yes.
Commissioner Unger,
Yes.
Mayor Wilkerson.
And yes. And that motion carries, which leads to action item number 4, surplus order, property order for Flynn Avenue. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Staff is recommending that the Board of Commissioners approve the attached surplus property order for Lot D on Flynn Avenue for sale by electronic auction with the minimum purchase price of $125,000.
I'll move to approve that.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Commissioner Waters. Opens it up for discussion. Any discussion, Commissioner Thompson?
City Solicitor Ross, I know that the discussion with regard to the surplusing of this and posting it on the govdeals.com website is the way that we have decided to go. is this a competitive sealed type bid situation with regard to that property? Because I know there have been some potential um, suitors, I guess is the right way to say it, and people who've shown interest. Are those are they notified? Is there public notice? What is the method by which we the govdeals.com type auction allows for us to do?
Sure. So basically, this is following the surplus property statute that we are bound by under state law. Electronic auctions is one of the methods that is allowed. It is not a competitive sealed bidding process. That is an alternative method that we could use. This one is exactly what it sounds like. It works much like eBay or any of the other electronic auction sites where you can put in your bid, you can see if you're outbid, continue to bid on the property until the time limit is actually put into place and the auction ends. The notice requirement for an electronic auction, I believe, is 7 to 21 days prior to the auction. And we will reach out to those who've expressed interest in the property and make sure that they are aware of all of the details of the auction so they don't miss it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Any other discussion? I ask the clerk to call for a vote.
Commissioner Waldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes.
Commissioner May,
Yes.
Commissioner Unger,
Yes.
Mayor Wilkerson.
And yes, and that motion carries. Moving on to action item number 5.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Actually, staff is going to recommend to table this agenda item to the December 20th, 2021 voting session due to the fact that the attorney for this project reached out to the city solicitor this afternoon and requested a meeting, which we will oblige since we have placed this item on the meeting agenda for tonight at 2020 Center's request. So we're happy to oblige them with this request to have a meeting between attorneys before bringing it back to you on December 20th.
Okay.
Mayor,
Yes.
Mayor,
Commissioner
because
Thompson?
that made it onto the agenda, do we actually have to move to table it as a portion of Robert's rules? Because it
I
actually
think
made
so.
it on the agenda, there's no action.
We should table it, yes. And I would entertain a motion here to table it.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second to table. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, hearing none, I'll ask the clerk to call for a vote.
Commissioner Waldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes.
Commissioner May,
Yes.
Commissioner Unger,
Yes.
Mayor Wilkerson.
Yes. We will revisit that next month. Action item number 6, recycling services.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Staff request approval to begin negotiations to enter an agreement with Lexington Recycle Center to accept our recyclable materials. I want to thank the public works staff, in particular Katie Beard, our director, and Byron Roberts, our solid waste superintendent, for their work in arranging tours, doing research, responding to our questions. I think one key thing to point out with this and suggesting and going with Lexington is that Franklin County their waste management has a contract with Lexington through 2023. And in discussions with Commissioner Unger and others, we thought it'd be valuable to stay with Lexington, but also at this time period, talk to County Waste Management Services and personnel. We can talk about how we can work together, perhaps lower cost, but work together to provide the best recycling and waste management services that we have. So staff would recommend approval to begin negotiations to enter in this agreement and to also move forward with contacting Franklin County Waste Management on this and other ways that we could cooperate together until the contract concludes in 2023.
Thank you.
I'll
I'd
move
make
to,
a motion to approve that recommendation.
Then we have a motion, Commissioner Thompson. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Unger? Yes. Any discussion on this action item?
Yeah, Mayor.
Yeah, Commissioner Unger, you have the floor.
I'd just like to say, I think it is in the best interest of the citizens to stay with Lexington. I appreciate staff for organizing the tours and letting me join you on those. Just educating myself on the two options of West Rock and Lexington. I think it's, the best financial decision for the city right now, as well as taking the burden off of some of the citizens that are taking time to collect certain materials that they have to go drop off on their own, or to other communities to drop off. So I'm excited to be taking glass again, curbside, as well as paper, hopefully next spring after Lexington adds to their facility, and we can do that again. So thanks to everybody, and thank you.
Commissioner Thompson?
I just want to tell Katie, Miss Beard from Public Works, that I am very thankful for her hard work. I know this has been a long and arduous process. I think this is a fine suggestion. I agree with it. I am wholeheartedly and very adamantly excited to approve this tonight. And I absolutely love the idea of working with the county. As we have all stated in the last 6 months, we think that would behoove all of us. So great job, Beard. Great job to your staff and everyone that has worked on this. I think this will benefit the citizens of Frankfort very much. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Mann.
Yes, Commissioner Waldridge.
I just wanted to say, I 100% agree with the Lexington. It was my first choice since day one as far as recycle is concerned. I do appreciate Katie and Byron and all the staff since 2019 of working on all of these continuous contracts. And I support the Lexington, and I'm even more excited to see, what that relationship with the county government and our city government could be in pushing recycling forward. And I appreciate Commissioner Unger as well as reaching out and given me information from her meetings that she's had. This is one of her babies, Recycle is. So I appreciate her giving me updates and things as she is retaining information. She's able to share it with the other commissioners, and I appreciate that. And we'll continue to support this Lexington move. So thank you, staff, and thank you, Commissioner Unger and City Manager.
And I'll chime in and say that I'm excited too that the day we get, I'm excited for the day where we can recycle everything and just put it out by the curb, and we know it's going to go somewhere. And to that point, I'm excited that I do not have to start taking paper, driving paper somewhere else to recycle. I can just put it out by the curb. So this is a step in the right direction, and I appreciate Commissioner Unger's hard work on this. I support it.
Mayor, if I just may make a
Commissioner.
clarification.
Yes.
So we will reach out to the community about when paper and glass will be picked up. It's not going to happen tomorrow or next week, but it will happen. Hopefully glass can start at the beginning of next year and paper will start around March, but we will confirm those dates with Lexington. Until that time, you'll see, we'll put out information on our Frank Waste app and send out some press releases, Facebook, other places when that change will happen so everybody knows.
Good point. Any other discussion? Seeing none, clerk, would you please call for a vote?
Commissioner Waldridge,
I vote yes.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes, very much so.
Commissioner May,
Yes, thanks for everybody's hard work on this.
Commissioner Unger,
Yes, ma'am.
Mayor Wilkerson.
And yes, and that motion carries. All right, great. Action item number 7, 2022 Parks Department fees for programs and facilities.
Yes, I first want to give a shout out to Sean Pickens, our Parks and Rec Director, Kirk Schooley, our golf pro, and Alex Cunningham, who also works at Parks and Rec, for their work on researching and calculating the new fee structure. I also appreciated all the citizens who came out to the community forum, and individually, people have reached out to us to offer their ideas. There's a lot of great ones, and as you guys saw on the version that Sean provided, down to 3 options, as well as a list of about 10 administrative changes we will look at pursuing that will also increase our efficiency, lower our cost as well.
Turning it over to Sean.
Yes, good evening. Thank you all. I'll be brief and try to answer any questions that you might have. The options did not change from the work session, so you should have all the current information. The only difference in what you received at the work session and then what you have now is some estimated revenue projections for each of those options to kind of, and that's based off of 2019 numbers. Basically, if we sold the exact same rounds or sold the exact same season passes in 2022 that we did in 19, that's the amount of additional revenue that we would have if you're just looking at fees. So after a lot of communication with Kirk Schooley, our golf pro, who I believe is also on the line here as well, if you have any specific questions for him, we are after a lot of discussion for the greens fees and the cart leases. We are recommending option 1, which has a modest increase for season passes for the greens fees, and then option 2 for the cart leases for the upcoming season. And then for the daily rates, which is page 2 there on your latest spreadsheet, option 1 with the $3 increase on weekends only. And that was done at the golf course prior to COVID. And then when COVID hit, that was changed to take that away. So we're instituting that back. So that's what we're looking at. Just want to take any questions, and we're recommending those just as we were trying to find a good happy medium through the public survey and public feedback. There wasn't complete opposition to raising fees. Most people understood that with the increase in expenses and everything that we're dealing with, that a modest increase is not out of the question. So that's what we're looking at. Is it's just something that's modest, trying not to close that $50,000 gap all necessarily just on fees, to see if we can't, as the city manager mentioned just a few minutes ago, discussing maybe some other administrative things that we can do to try to limit that gap and not just put it all on our consumer. So be happy to take any questions.
Commissioner Walters.
I don't really have a question. I just want to say thank you, Sean, for hosting all of the meetings with the public that you have, and also City Manager Haig. I appreciate that. I don't know if there is one option where most of our community are going to agree, but we all can agree that we have to close this deficit. We have to find ways to improve our greens, improve our parks to bring in more revenue. Therefore, we're not always in the negative here. So coming out of COVID, I can understand increase is not wanted by all, but this is something we're going to have to continue moving forward. We're going to have to improve those greens. We're going to have to improve all of those areas. And then also, raise those where more people are going to want to come and golf in Frankfort. use our facility. So thank you for the hard work. I know just looking over the numbers was so stressful for me in the last couple of meetings that we've had. I think you've done a great job in presenting this option. And so I will agree with your suggestions so that we can move forward and continuing to look where we can save and where we can improve our greens and things of that nature for the community. So thank you to all that was working on this. And Sean, thanks. You did a great job.
Thank you.
Commissioner Thompson.
Want to echo what Commissioner Walters said. Thank you to Sean and thank you to City Manager Haig. I think you guys have done a great job here. No one, you can never make everyone happy, but I think this is a good step in the right direction to at least close a little bit of that gap. I would hope that this is a means to an end at some point. While many people in public service and government work say that parks and amenities of that nature are things you spend money on, you don't make money on. But I agree with that in an old way of looking at things. I think there are new means of doing that, and this is a step towards that. I hope we will continue to look towards making our park systems the best they can be, while also not having them solely as a liability. I think in many communities around the state, they are using third-party vendors to essentially run some of their larger organizations, and I think that would or larger entities, and I think they're doing quite well, if you will. After that, I think that is something we should at least look at. But this is a good start to that, and I'm happy to see that we're reviewing some things after quite a few years of not. So thank you to Sean and his staff, City Manager Haig. You always go above and beyond. Thank you for that, and hopefully we can keep making some improvements here.
Commissioner Unger.
Thank you, Mayor. I also want to say thank you to Mr. Pickens, Mr. Kirk. I do agree with the options, and but I would like to say I'm probably more excited about what we can do to enhance the golf course. Looking at some of those policies and procedures, because it'll only make it better and attract more people to come play golf. I want to make sure before today I went and visited the golf course, and it's an awesome place in town. I got to hit a few balls and for the first time ever, and I'll just say I really enjoyed my time, and you'll probably see me up there again. So thanks for all you're doing, and if you guys are okay, I'll make a motion to approve the recommendations of the staff for the option.
Okay, we have a motion.
I will second that recommendation.
And I guess we should have had that before we had all the discussion, but yes, there's a motion by Commissioner Unger and a second by Commissioner May. And can I just say, we're basically barely keeping up with inflation on this. And if we had indexed, the original cost of golf at Juniper Hills to inflation today, the numbers would be much more than they are right now. So this is just, barely keeping up with where we should be, I think, personally. And, if you look at Social Security income, it's all automatically indexed to inflation. So every year retirees get an increase in their income beginning of the calendar year in January, but the city doesn't have a method to do the same way, and our expenses stay the same. So we have, there's more resistance there is my point. And the fact is, I think this is just, it's probably overdue. And I support it 100%. Thank you, Sean, and the rest who have worked on this. And any other discussion?
But
Mayor, just to correct the record. Yeah, just to correct the record, I was the one who seconded that. I think Kelly had a strength on his face when you said that, so I didn't want Miss Maxwell to be confused. So.
With Commissioner May, sorry.
Oh, no worries. Correct the record.
Get in a habit there. So. See no further discussion? If none, I will ask the clerk to call for a vote.
Commissioner Waldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes.
Commissioner May,
Yes.
Commissioner Unger,
Yes.
Mayor Wilkerson.
And yes, that motion carries. Now go to action item number 8, city manager. You're on mute.
How do I easily forget that? Thank you, Mayor. From our work session earlier this month, we had a presentation by Commonwealth Alliance to hire them as for their lobbying services. I reached out to all of y'all to discuss this. I wanted to read out the priorities because if staff recommends approval of this contract and want to recommend agreement on the priorities, which I have as developing and expanding relationships with state legislators, supporting our work in the payment in lieu of taxes from state government, and the Broadway Bridge. Any other discussions? This only other thing to add, this contract is for November through April of 2022. And it can be canceled with 30 days notice.
All right. I'll entertain a motion. Commissioner Roberts. Well, hold on. We have a Commissioner May have a motion.
Right.
Okay, a motion.
Yeah, I
and
did not have
second.
a motion. I had discussion.
Okay, now discussion. Commissioner Waters.
I just wanted to share, I think lobbying is always good, as long as we're pulling in funds and we're getting support and we're making those relationships. I don't agree that Broadway Bridge should be one of our focal points that our lobbyists should be going in right now, given the circumstances of our city and the economic development that we need to push forward, continuing to bring other economic development projects into Frankfort, moving filling these buildings that are empty, things of that nature, getting parcels B moving in the right direction. We have so many projects going on. I just don't feel that taxpayer dollars should pay for lobbyists to go lobby for us in regards to a Broadway bridge and put money there when it could cost millions. Also, another idea, I was speaking with some legislators the other day, and it seems that there's going to be some legislation presented to say that with tax-paying dollars that you should not be allowed to hire lobbyists with taxpayer dollars. So I don't know if that's going to be passed, but I do want to put that out there so our manager and solicitor can keep an eye on that as that is moving forward, because if it does indeed pass this evening, it could be something we may have to go back and change if legislation proves or is passed to say that it would be against rules and regulations to use taxpayers' money for lobbyists. So I can see the pros and cons on that. I think this should be a little bit more of a discussion before passing, but I'm sure you have the votes for it as it's on the voting agenda. But I would have to hold off on my vote at this time, given the circumstances and the projects that it's focusing on. I think we have a very strong commission. We all have our areas that we're great in. And I think that we all have certain relationships that I think that we should be supporting each other to continue to have with legislators and other people across state government and strengthen our relationships there. And also, really put the ball in the court of, our Senator Southworth, as well as, Derek Graham and Fifth. These people have been elected by our communities in Frankfort. They represent Frankfort. They were in Frankfort looking for those that vote. And we need to say, hey, we need to have meetings with you to go lobby, as that's part of your job to represent Frankfort. And that's what our community wants you to do. I spoke with Derek Graham the other day at an event and asked him what his ideas were going to be for this upcoming session. And he said he really didn't have anything on the plate right now, but his main point was going to be focusing on redistricting, as well as education, as far as moving money from public entities to private entities. So I think we need to start where there's people here willing to work. I spoke with, reached out to Southworth, and she hasn't really heard from many of our commission and things of that nature. And I think we should start with what's in front of us before we continue to push out more money to do lobbyists, and then also just looking out for that legislation that's coming through. So that's really what I had to add. So thank you for allowing me to share, Mayor.
Of course. Commissioner Thompson?
I do think that if the legislature passes any type of legislation like that, there'll be a whole lot unemployed lobbyists. Is almost all their money comes from taxpayer dollars. If you go back into it, I do think, however, I agree with everything that Commissioner Waldridge says, and we do have good relationships with not only our own legislators that we have elected, but also those in leadership, both parties in both houses. But when it comes down to it, me personally, I'm working this job as a full-time job, just like I know the other four of you are, and along with Laura and Shermay and Penny, and there's not enough hours in the day. And if these individuals are that's their thing, then I think that it would behoove us to do it. I do think that the original items that we outlined that we needed to be focusing on came from our initial discussions and our economic development discussions earlier in the year, and our discussions with Andy, Seth, and others. And I don't think that there was ever any issues at that point. And I think that the Broadway Bridge, while we've had innumerable talks about that we've had them for the last 11 months, and I know that the city commission's had them for a couple of years now. I think that there are benefits to the project as well as detriments, but when it comes to being able to get grant funding for a project like this, I do think it would benefit the city to be able to open up both sides of the river there, and have that walking bridge back and forth. I do think this is a good contract. I think they have a good reputation. I think they were prepared, and they presented to us exactly how they would work the contracts that we have, or the contacts that we have, and I think that they have already been beneficial when it comes to advice that may be given in the future. So I agree with Commissioner Waldridge that in a perfect world we would all be able to use the contacts and influence that we have, but there's just not enough daylight for everything that we need to get done, and anybody that's a professional that can help us, I'm all for that help while it's available. And if the law changes, I'm totally okay with it.
Any other discussion? And I'll piggyback off that to say that I hope that we can influence our representatives and senators and the executive branch as much as we can, but sometimes it does help to have specific advice on specific topics and to know who to talk to and when to talk to them. I think, and right now, I think anything we can do extra people power, a surge, if you will, to echo one of our administrators have said, sometimes we need extra surge, and right now I think Frankfort could use it. And I like the contract too, and that we can get out of it if we need to, and they can too. Any other discussion on that? Seeing none or hearing none, I'll ask the clerk to call for a vote.
Commissioner Waldridge,
I didn't hear Commissioner Waters.
I'm gonna say no.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm
Okay.
gonna say no at this time.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner May,
Yes.
Commissioner Unger,
Yes.
and Mayor Wilkerson.
Yes, and that motion carries. Which ends our action items, and now I'll entertain. Well, now we'll move on to any new business.
Yeah,
Commissioner Waters.
yes, I have new business. You did say new business, correct?
Yes,
I
we are
apologize, you're echoing.
New
Okay.
business.
Yes. So new business is that since 2019, we have allowed the one day for the floating day for the staff to choose the day. It's usually around Christmas, and that has to be approved every single year. It's just rolling. It's something that we've given them. So I want to go ahead and see if we can put that on the agenda for the December 13th meeting. I've already spoke with City Commissioner Laura Haig, as well as City Solicitor Laura, and we want to go ahead and try to put that on the December 13th meeting for that. And this time we would like to put it on to be permanent, so we do not have to continue to remember to do it every single year, and for that to be something we have to vote on every single year if possible. This allows for one extra day for our staff to stay home with their families during that Christmas holiday, and we've had it since 2019. So thank you.
Got it. Thank you, Commissioner Waters. Any other new business? Commissioner Thompson.
Mayor, on the coattails of Commissioner Waldridge here, I do know that there is an upcoming blood drive here in Franklin County. I believe it is the 28th or 29th, and that's it, I'm sorry, it's the 29th of November. Normally state employees are able to provide blood, and they give they're given a certain amount of time off to be able to do that. In this particular situation, there are a number of firefighters and police officers that I know want to donate at this time. I know there is a crossover with regard to coverage and things of that nature, obviously. But I would like to make that possible if we could, not just in this next one that's coming up in our community, but at least during the emergency that has been declared by yourself, so that we can allow our employees to be able to serve their community in that way. I think there was a discussion of maybe float time with that, or straight time to rest the afternoon off if they were to provide blood donation. I would like to see something like that as well, so that we can all better serve the community in a crisis situation like this.
Good idea, Kyle. Commissioner Thompson.
Sounds good to me. But that's next week. Is that something that requires a motion, or can we just direct the city manager to?
City Manager Haig,
Commissioner, sorry, City Attorney.
So I'm sorry, you did say it was next week, Commissioner Thompson, the mayor.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And okay, so what we can do on that then, since it's at your direction, is the city manager can actually send out something administratively, and we'll have to look at the details of how we give that time, but we will figure it out one way or another. We'll just work on that administratively.
Have we done something similar in the past with regard to providing anything of this nature with regard to employee benefits, something similar to voting and blood donations, things of that nature?
I'm honestly not certain. Shermay is nodding her head. So maybe we have.
I was honestly thinking about voting because we do get voting time. So I'm not sure about blood drive things. I don't know that I've ever seen anything specific for that, but we do get voting time.
How does the voting time work with regard to coverage, Ms. Maxwell, for our public service folks?
Public service might be a little different, but I know usually we get I think it's 3 or 4 hours voting time. And if it's a presidential election, I think we get all day, possibly. I'm thinking.
I think that's right.
Yeah, but as far as public safety, I'm sorry, I'm not totally sure about that.
I just wondered if they went on their break and did it, and then if they got the same thing, but it was floating as opposed to the rest of the crew.
I would say so. If they couldn't take that 3 or 4 hour span, I would think they would still get floating time to take that maybe at another time.
And Commissioner, that's in accordance with our ordinance as well that we utilize for holiday or other time off. There's actually a provision in the ordinance that addresses some of how that will be handled for those who can't take off at a certain time. So we will definitely look at that. We will send out something from the city manager's office, and we will figure out how to handle the time.
City Solicitor Ross, would you like for me to make a motion to direct staff to administratively handle that issue?
Yes, I think that would be a good idea. Then we have a clear record that this is the will of the board.
Mayor, that's exactly what I will do. I will make a motion to direct staff to administratively handle the possibility of providing time as consideration for providing blood donations or any other testing donations that may be needed during this emergency that we have.
We have a motion. Well, City Attorney, do you have anything that relates to the motion?
I just wanted to quickly make sure we're understanding. I think you were clear, Commissioner, but this is not just limited to next week. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay,
That's
so
correct.
this would be during this time of particular emergency that we're facing right now.
I would say during a declared emergency.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. So any discussion on this? Let me ask staff, is this something that's going to, how much research do you need to do on this? I know we talked earlier this week about no new initiatives. Does this count? Yes, Commissioner.
There is a corresponding county resolution, I believe, that would be very helpful for this.
We'll get it done.
Okay. As long as everybody's feeling good about it. I mean, it sounds like a great idea. Any other discussion?
I can ask a question of Solicitor Ross. The motion by Commissioner Waldridge, do we need a motion on that to make sure there's the consensus of the board? I know that she has offered this resolution for the last 2 years now. Is that in and of itself a board consensus? Or do we need a motion since we just did one for Commissioner Thompson?
First of all, I'm sorry. Did we vote on Commissioner Thompson's? No, we haven't had the vote yet.
No.
I'll address that quickly. Just because she said to bring it to the December 13th meeting, I think that's good enough, and you all can take a final vote on that one at that time.
Okay. Thanks. Sorry.
But this one is not there's more urgency because it's next week for the one, correct?
That's right. That's right.
And I think she's expecting December 13th on the other. Ask the clerk to call for a vote.
Commissioner Waldridge.
It appears she fell off. I
Yeah.
saw her exit.
Her phone was getting low on battery.
Okay, she's gone. Commissioner Thompson,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner May,
Yes.
Commissioner Unger,
Yes.
Mayor Wilkerson.
Yes. And that motion carries. Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. And any other new business before we move on to I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session?
Mayor, I make a motion, we go into executive session per KRS 61.810, subsection 1F, personnel discussion of an employee's request for a hearing. Action will be taken.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, we'll now go into executive session. We are now back in the open session.
Mayor, I make a motion to deny employees' request for a hearing.
And we have a motion to deny the employee's request for hearing. We have a second. We have any discussion on this motion? Seeing none and hearing none, I'll ask the clerk to please call for a vote.
Commissioner Waldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes.
Commissioner May,
Yes.
Commissioner Unger,
Yes.
Mayor Wilkerson.
Yes, and that motion carries.
Mayor, I move for
Motion.
adjournment.
Mayor, I would make a motion to adjourn the meeting
Yeah.
at this time.
We have a motion, but I'll entertain a second. We have a
Second.
All right, and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
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 Is there any opposed? Seeing none, we'll see you next time. Good night.